Yo, what's good people? I'm your FPL Thinking Cap Benji and I'm back with another transfer tips video, this time ahead of game week 12, and there is a hell of a lot to discuss during the international break. I hope you guys are enjoying the last international break of 2025. After this period, it's going to be go, 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 go time. So I'm very excited to get into our discussions today. And let's actually start with Liverpool, who I will have to say, look, as much as a United fan, I'm not a big fan of Liverpool. I have been a hater of Liverpool this season. The fixtures are very, very good. Certainly sort of the next 10, where they have Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton at home, Tottenham away. That's a good fixture. And then Wolves and Leeds both at home, back-to-back in game weeks 18 and 19. By that period, Mohamed Salah will have left. Now, let's actually start with Mohamed Salah, because I know I've seen a few people in the community actually talk about owning Salah on a wildcard 12, wildcard 13, and I wanted to discuss whether is that actually feasible. And for me, when I look at the premium fixtures, guys, the guys who you're gonna be looking to captain most weeks, comparing them with Salah's fixtures, for me, I look at Salah upside as captaincy. If you're gonna captain him at 14 million, then I think he does better to justify his price. But ultimately, if you're going to still be captaining Haaland in 13, 15, and 17, it's very difficult for me to see where Mohamed Salah kind of plays into your captaincy pathway. Because yes, okay, maybe you'll cap him 14. I think 16 is the week that looks to me that he can put a big gap on Erling Haaland, because obviously Haaland's destroyed him opening patch. I think 16 is the one. 13 is going to be, look, if you're going to go for Mohamed Salah, I feel 13 you do need to be willing to captain as well. But I understand he is a little bit of a differential at the moment, but it's still 14.2 million, something like that. If we come to the prices, 14.2 million. He's on 6 GA this season, 6 and 11. His minutes have been fantastic, but ultimately, I just don't see enough upside with Salah, considering that Bukayo Saka is emerging more so as that talismanic premium we all know him as. Obviously, Palmer's going to be back around 16. We have Bruno Fernandes, who is doing very well in the current meta at the moment with 5 GA in 11. His DEFCON per 90 has slid down a little bit into the sort of mid-10s, but that's okay. I expect it to fluctuate in between 10 and 12 and 11. Throughout the season, I still think he's going to hit it, especially with December coming up. There's going to be a lot more 50-50s, a lot more loose balls, a lot more defensive mistakes, a lot more opportunities for DEFCON for Bruno heading into this congested part of the season. So this is why, for me, I look at, okay, Bruno covers in 12, Saka can cover in 14, Bruno can cover in 14 as well, if you're looking at Haaland's worst weeks. And if I think, look, if you own Salah and Haaland, there's no way you can have Saka and Bruno alongside that, because you're going to have a Mateta, maybe you have a Semenyo, whatever. But for me, if I look at my premium structure, Haaland, Saka, and Bruno against the Haaland Salah guys, I just feel as though they will probably beat him as long as minutes and fitness is still there across this period. I just look at Salah and I just think he's still been unimpressive. Liverpool, it's the first game, I think it was in like 45 Premier League games that they didn't score against Manchester City. So ultimately, I'm not that interested in Mohamed Salah. I think there's some good fixtures in there. If you guys want to take the risk, you can. But ultimately, this is a guy who doesn't have better data than Saka. He's got the same level of data as Bruno, picks like Brian Mbumo, even Enzo Fernandez. They're averaging more non-pen XGI than Salah this season. So for me, I think Salah is a trap. I think he is definitely an avoid. And I think if you're looking at a premium on a wild card, it's got to be Bukayo Saka. It's got to be Bruno Fernandes. Maybe you can fit in a Bruno plus Mbumo to really maximize United's fixture run, which is quite good if we have a look, right? We've got Everton in there. That should be a strong blue. Crystal Palace away, okay, that's tough, but West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. So overall, the long kind of 10 game week span on United's fixtures is very, very positive. We're unbeaten in 5, and I think this is the opportunity where you can hop on a little bit more maybe than just one United mid and go for 2 if you're on a wild card. I think that is probably what I would be looking to do, because you're not going to gain much from just one. So I would be interested in Bruno. I'm interested in Cunha as well. Let's hear Amarim talking about Sesko later next week. Let's see what he says. But ultimately, I think if Sesko is injured long term, this guy is going to be playing 90 minutes every single week. Xerxes is not going to be touching the pitch. It's going to be Matthias Cunha in the 9 as sort of a false 9, dropping inside a little bit. It's going to be a very flowy attack, a lot of freedom, I would say, given to Amarim's attackers on the ball, not off the ball. So I would definitely consider Cunha. I know he's just got 1 goal, but I think he will come good. And he's also playing his former club Leeds twice in the span of 6 weeks. Obviously, Mbumo and Ahmad will be going to AFCON too, which I think does boost his minutes as well. So Matthias Cunha, one to keep your eye on for the medium term. In terms of the premiums, like I said, Salah, Saka, Bruno, Foden, his output has not been there this season. I'm not sure backing him just before December is the right time to say, hey, I'm confident on his minutes, let's go here now. Let me see him play 3 days, 3 days, 3 days, 3 starts out of those, and then I'll say, okay, this guy's actually really nailed, because it's not like he has had that congested fixture minutes up until this point. I know he has started a lot of games for Man City, but still I need to see more, because it's a lot of money I'm putting there for a guy with no pen share. And you guys know me, I love my pens, right? So Foden, one to watch, I'd say. I wouldn't probably go with him on wildcard just yet. But then again, you're gonna want City for these fixtures, right? Maybe, look, let's see how Foden does across Newcastle, and then maybe if you're wildcarding 13, you can look at him for Leeds. But I still think there is a lot of risk attached to Phil Foden. But yeah, Salah, for me, no-go. I think if you don't have Bukayo Saka, I would 100% try to get there, because if you didn't learn from what he just did against Sunderland, I mean, the guy scored a goal in a 2-2 draw and got 12 points. That's how high his ceiling is in the game right now. This is a guy that's capable of doing a brace and getting 18 points for a brace. Just a reminder that an Erling Haaland and Mateta hat trick is 17 points. With 2 goals, this guy can outscore him. That's the ceiling that he has, because we've seen depending on game state with Arsenal, he's a guy that actually can do DEFCON. I understand he's just hit the threshold, but even I said this to my Patreon members a few months back, I checked Saka's historical records for DEFCON, that he's a guy who hit it 3-4 times in some of his past seasons. And this season, especially with, I would say, more long balls in play, more set pieces, Arsenal being quite a defensively hard-working team in terms of their attackers, I think Saka DEFCON is not something I would be surprised with to see, especially in a derby fixture like Tottenham as well. So with the clean sheets as well, clean sheet point, if you want to take on Haaland, you want to take him on with a guy who has a high ceiling, and that's exactly what Bukayo Saka offers. He's on the penalties now. Everybody was saying, Gyökeres is going to take the pen. Saka, he's not the cap anymore from Arsenal. Well, he is still the cap, because he's kept pens, and he's told Gyökeres, you go get open play goals first, bro, because you don't need confidence pens right now. I do. So I like the fact that Saka's shown that ego there, that I'm him personality to keep the pens. And ultimately, guys, if you don't have him, back him. I expect him to do very well over this period. If you look at all the home games, these home games are fantastic for Saka. Tottenham, Brentford, Wolves, Brighton, Villa. He's a captaincy option in almost all of those weeks, apart from the away games. And even Everton away, Villa away, those are fixtures where he could return. Chelsea, I think he'd need a set piece GA to return in that fixture, because I do rate Cucurella, but I still think overall the patch is really, really great for Bukayo Saka, and I think him plus Bruno is why Salah is not in my personal meta across this period, and that's why I'm not looking for him, guys. So if you're on wildcard, I would steer clear. I do think he's a trap. Let's talk about Van Dijk, though, who, if we look at Liverpool defensively, they are top 6 for non-pen expected goals conceded across the first 11. Open play, they drop a little bit down to 8th. And in terms of set-piece defense, they've been okay, even though they have conceded 7 goals from set pieces, including penalties. So it's a little concerning for Liverpool in terms of set pieces, but apart from that, they still are a decent defense. I know they do concede a lot of big chances away from home, but at Anfield, they will keep clean sheets this season. I'm not saying they're going to be as productive as last year, but certainly they are a decent defense. My only concern with Liverpool's defense across this period is if they pick up a significant injury to the likes of Ibrahim Konate, who maybe Liverpool fans will tell you, oh, he's not that important. Well, the replacement isn't much better. Arne Slot's not an idiot. He's playing Konate for a reason, because Joe Gomez cannot be trusted week after week in the Premier League. So if they get one defensive injury, they are looking very ropey. If they get a long-term, medium-term Gravenberch injury, it's looking very ropey. Szoboszlai, if they lose Szoboszlai for some reason, I know he's got a great injury record, but if they lose him, the potential for clean sheets for me really drops, because you got to start thinking about depth for teams in a congested fixture period like December, January. You've got to start thinking about depth, and Liverpool are certainly a team that doesn't have a lot of depth. So these are a few things that is worrying me with Virgil van Dijk. The other thing with Virgil is obviously DEFCON, right? He has DEFCON potential. But the question I'd like to pose to guys who are pro Virgil van Dijk is, how many DEFCON points are you expecting in these easy fixtures at home? For instance, Villa, right? He didn't hit DEFCON against Villa. I'm not sure how many DEFCONs he's going to return across easy games, because ultimately Liverpool are going to have, 60 to 70% possession in these fixtures. Is the ball even going to get to him enough for him to have DEFCON? I'm not too sure about that. Maybe, these lower teams will play that long ball style where he is hitting those clearances, but ultimately, I'm not too sure about his DEFCON rate. 3 clean sheets for Virgil van Dijk so far in the first 11. They have had tougher fixtures, I will give them that. And a 55% DEFCON hit rate is pretty decent as well, considering he is at premium price. I think the only guy who's even close to that is, there's no one really close to that. Even Gabriel's dropped to 36%. So ultimately, Van Dijk, I still think, is heavily in the meta, but you've got to compare him to his competitors, right? I think his main competitor at that price is Daniel Munoz. And let's look at the fixtures here for both. Palace, Wolves, I think that could definitely be a clean. United, we haven't scored against Oliver Glasner at Selhurst Park yet. It's been a 0-0 and a 4-0. So ultimately, I still think that's a decent fixture for Crystal Palace, although we definitely could score. I think they have Strasbourg before they play us midweek. So ultimately, could be a game where Palace do not keep a clean sheet, even though they've kept back-to-back at home. But then Burnley, and guys, remember this, Crystal Palace were one of the best away defenses last season. They kept a hell of a lot of cleans away from home. I think Burnley, Fulham definitely could be clean sheets. Wolves could be a clean sheet. So then if you start to look at it like, hey, it could be 2 and 4, maybe even 3 and 4, then you're starting to look at it like, will Virgil van Dijk actually outscore the likes of a Daniel Munoz, a Guehi, who's been absolutely fantastic from attacking set pieces? I'm not too sure. And then you add Leeds to that as well. I know they have some fixture congestion in that period, but ultimately it's not a terrible run for Crystal Palace over the next 12 weeks. Yes, look, if they get 1 or 2 injuries, same with Liverpool, they don't have much depth, but Palace are a team that concede possession and play counter football. They are not trying to press teams all the time. They are not running as much. They're sitting in a deeper block. There's less recovery runs. So I think the chance for injury is lower with Crystal Palace. That's something to consider. And this is why I think Van Dijk and Salah and could be potential traps, because ultimately the main competitors for most defenders are Crystal Palace assets in every single price category. You got Richards at 4.5, you've got Lacroix, and you've got Guehi at 5, you've got Munoz at that premium price 5.7, right? Sorry guys, but I think it's going to be hard for some of these defenders to compete with Crystal Palace, and they are fully within the meta in terms of DEFCON. You've got, almost 30% since Glasner's come in. 30% of total team GA has been from defenders, highest out of all teams in the Prem since that period. So I think ultimately I would prefer Crystal Palace. I think right now, if you had to buy one, I would prefer you to buy a Daniel Munoz over Virgil van Dijk, just because I'm not that sure that Van Dijk is going to deliver for his price value because of uncertainty for DEFCONs, the lack of squad depth, and the fact that they aren't that elite of a defense. Like if we look at the defensive table here, Crystal Palace are sitting in the top 5, for non-pen XGC across the first 11 and open play XGC. And set pieces, they've conceded 3 set pieces. If you look at all those teams, though, in that set piece table, they are quite close, right? So it's not like they are that far away in terms of set piece defense. So those are some things to consider defensively. I think if you're looking at O'Reilly, I understand the Man City fixtures are good. Leeds, Fulham, Sunderland. I think there could be 2-3 clean sheets in those 3 games specifically. And then you got West Ham in there, you got Forest, Sunderland. But ultimately, the thing that I always come back to is minutes, 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 and his competition. Who's his competition at 5.0 now? By the way, I forgot to change this, but O'Reilly is now at 5 million. His competition is now Lacroix and Guehi and Senesi, some of the best DEFCON picks and attacking set piece picks in the game, right? If he misses 1 or 2 starts in the next 7, these guys are going to crush you because, like I showed you, Crystal Palace's fixtures are quite good. So ultimately, I think O'Reilly for me is not a pick. If you want City defense, there's only one nailed guy, and that's Donnarumma, and he is quite expensive. So I'm looking at City defense. I'm just thinking I cannot spend on you unless Crystal Palace's defense regresses to a level where I need to consider other investment options. But yeah, these are my thoughts on the defensive picks. I think if you are trying to transfer in a guy, if you do not need to make a defensive transfer this week, I wouldn't make it. And then take the week's worth of info you're going to get in game week 12 on Van Dijk and Crystal Palace and the midweek games, and then decide in 13 who you want. Right? Because this transfer, if you're going to use a defensive transfer, has to be the right one. You're investing before December crunch, where there's a lot of congested fixtures. You don't really want to be making another defensive transfer at this point. You want it to be the long-term guy. You want to get the long-term guy in that spot. So you got to be sure about who you're going to get. If you don't need to make the move this week, do not make it. But if you do, I think I would go ahead and pick up a Crystal Palace asset defensively. If you already have one, that's fine, because most people have one, and I just think they are a very, very good defense. 5 clean sheets this season. Like, they've got the same amount of clean sheets as Chelsea. They've got the same amount of clean sheets as, well, not the same as Arsenal, but they're only a few behind Arsenal. So it just shows you how good value the likes of a Chris Richards is, who is my favorite 4.5 if you're looking in that market with his DEFCON potential. Senesi, look, I've heard a few people talking about, should you sell Senesi? Wrong slide. Should you sell Senesi after, when is it? Everton at home, I think it is. Let me just find Bournemouth. Oh, there they are, up in 3rd. West Ham, Sunderland, Everton, Chelsea, Burnley, Brentford. Should be a few clean sheets, especially at home for the likes of Senesi. But for me, I look at Senesi like this. There's no need for me to sell, because if you look at his DEFCON and his DEFCON hit rate, I mean, this guy's literally the best DEFCON asset in the entire game. He has the highest likelihood of hitting 2 points most weeks. That's how good this guy is. So, yeah, no need to sell Senesi unless, there's a significant injury to maybe like a Tyler Adams or something. I don't think Bournemouth are losing too many players during AFCON. The likes of Semenyo's not going. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. If we look at midfielders now, there is some interest on Dominic Szoboszlai, but he is on 4 yellow cards, 1 more yellow card, and he gets suspended for a match. 2 GA, he's on 11% share of Liverpool's total Premier League goals and assists this season, which isn't that much, but this is a guy who did do 16 returns last season. He's not a bum. He should deserve some respect, and he does have, if you see the little yellow thing, he does have some set piece share, but if you notice, Mo Salah was taking his side of the corners against Man City. His DEFCON hit rate in the attacking mid is actually very poor. He's been hitting DEFCON this season because he's had to play right back and in the center mid position, a little bit defensively as well in some games because McAllister, he hasn't been fully fit. Gravenberch had a setback. So those are the reasons why Szoboszlai has had better DEFCON numbers, but you're going to see that 11.7 DEFCON per 90 slide down for Dom 100% as he continues to make starts in the 10, as Bradley starts to pick up a bit of form at right back. So for me, I prefer the likes of, if you own Ndrai, I wouldn't make that swap. If you own Ismaila Sarr, I wouldn't make that swap. Enzo Fernandez, I've heard some rumors of him getting benched this against Burnley because Barca is such a big game. I think that could be the case, but ultimately you have to play the fixture there, I think. There's not too many options in the 6.5 price point, so I understand why a lot of people are going to Szoboszlai, but for me, the top guy in 6 to 7 million, if you're looking to invest, is Yankuba Minte. 6 returns this season, and Brighton fixtures haven't been that good, and they have a lot of really good fixtures coming up, including Brentford at home this week, and maybe you think Brentford, oh, that's a tough fixture. Brentford away from home are a different team at home. That's just a plain, hard, cold fact. Then you got Forest away. Okay, it's not great, but without Ola Aina, he should get a decent matchup in that game. Then you got Villa at home, West Ham at home, Liverpool away. Sorry, Liverpool fans, that's a great fixture. Sunderland at home, good fixture. Arsenal away. Okay, you're going to bench him in 18. But apart from that, apart from 18 and 21, where you're going to want to bench him, you can perma play this guy up till 22, and he's 6 mil. He's not going to AFCON because Gambia didn't qualify. So for me, Minte, #1 target if you're in this price category in the midfield. Honestly, I wouldn't be shopping in the 5.9, 5.5, 5.3, 5.0 price point. I think having a decently strong 5 midfield is probably the way to go at the moment. And in terms of the strikers here, we've got Erling Haaland, of course. If you don't have him, go and buy him. Watkins, an absolute no-go. Mateta's good, but is he a long-term season hold? I'm not sure. When we have assets like Igor Thiago scoring 8 goals at 6.3, even in and around Thiago, there are some other good options as well. I think Welbeck's done well for his price. Strand Larsen, let's see with their new manager, Wolves, but ultimately we're not touching any Wolves players, let's be real. I think the 7-4, 7-5, 7-7, you've got Bowen, João Pedro, Walter Made. You shouldn't be buying any of those guys with those fixtures on the decline, apart from Walter Made, who he did get another assist, but I am worried about his long-term minutes. I mean, if you get an asset subbed early, before December crunch, subbed at halftime, that just tells you he is a risky minutes pick long-term. So I still think Walter Mata is a sell, and I think Man City is a good exit. Overall, the 3 strikers you should be looking to have in your team: Haaland, Mateta's good, and Thiago. I think those are the clear in the meta. If you want another guy apart from that, I think Danny Welbeck deserves some consideration, but I would be more pessimistic on his minutes heading into December, January. Now, let's just move into my team here because we haven't really talked about it much. This is how I'm setting up. I've got a decently strong team, but what I would say is I am looking to move Lucas Paqueta to Minte, the move I was just telling you about. My favorite mid, 6 mil, so cheap. The guy's on corners. I'm going to make that move and then bench Rodon. But the real dilemma is obviously, most analytical models are saying that going Burn to Virgil and then playing a fullback for the next few fixtures is actually the better play. That's what the analytical models are saying, and that's why you're going to see a lot of the big content creators going to a back 4 with a lot of the assets that I have. Maybe they have a Richards instead of Lacroix, maybe an Anderson, whatever. But they're going to be playing a fullback with Virgil van Dijk coming in to make it a back 4. For me, I do not I wouldn't say I don't believe in Van Dijk, but I'm just worried that at 5'9", I don't trust Liverpool's defense enough to go to a fullback perma play. I still think, and I still back an asset like Yankuba Minte to win out long term, because I just back the attackers. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know in the comments if you think I am mistaken. But yeah, this is how my team's looking up. I'm looking to do one move. I could have bench boosted last week. I chose not to, which ultimately was a good decision. I had a red card on my bench. I think I had like 4 or 5 points on my bench. It was trash. So thank God I didn't bench boost. I'm going to be looking at a probably 16, 17 bench boost later in the season. I just think that there is a high ceiling with bench boost this season, and it's something that I would like to plan for and prioritize, considering that everybody is, using chips. People are going from 3 to 4, 2 to 3 chips used now. The longer I can save mine and hold on mine and try to optimize mine, the bigger points jump I can make later down the line. Like if I really try to make this bench boost good and sacrifice for it, I could be getting a 20-point bench boost. That's a 20-point swing on the field, right? So I do think there is value in prioritizing the chip and not just throwing it away, right? Worst case scenario, if I'm in a period where, oh God, I've got a lot of injuries, I need to just get it out the way and I get 9-10 points, whatever, that's fine, right? I can do that. That's the backup plan B scenario, but ultimately I'd still like to try to optimize the chip. If you guys did enjoy this one, then hit that like button on your way out. Don't forget to subscribe as well. We're gonna have a lot of content coming your way across the December period. We're gonna be working very hard. We've got the Peer Pressure podcast coming this week with a very special guest. Do keep your eyes out for that, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.